French President Emmanuel Macron and his far-right challenger Marine Le Pen have made their final push for votes before Sunday's presidential runoff. Polls show the race is much tighter than 5 years ago when French voters faced the same choice. Though Macron is expected to win, many people say they're undecided or ambivalent.
His campaign slogan might be all of us, but it's not clear enough if France will be with Emmanuel Macron at the ballot box on Sunday. Both the incumbent president and his far-right opposition, Marine Le Pen, have been making a final push for votes, touring the TV stations on Friday morning. But they're not speaking to their core demographic. Instead, vying for votes from supporters of far-left candidate Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who won 20% in the first round. On the streets of Paris, neither Le Pen nor Macron are popular with this key group of voters.
We haven't had a choice in the second round for ages. I'll go for the least worst choice. I won't be voting for the right or the extreme right.
It's become a campaign of style over substance. Macron attempting to shake off a reputation of arrogance and connect with working-class voters. Le Pen trying to portray herself as a serious stateswoman. In a TV debate earlier this week, Macron attacked Le Pen's stance on Russia. She refuted the accusation, instead trying to focus on the cost of living.
You depend on Russian power. You depend on Mr. Putin. A few months after saying that, Madame Le Pen, you took out a loan from a Russian bank in 2015. First Czech Russian bank.
I agreed on all the sanctions that were taken against the oligarchs, against the banks. The only sanction that I disagree with is the one blocking Russian gas and oil imports. Why? Because I think that's not the right method. This is not what will actually hurt Russia, and above all, it will hurt the French people a lot.
Macron is expected to keep the keys to the Élysée Palace, though it was a tougher fight than many expected. But with millions undecided and unhappy with both candidates, there's no clear winner in Sunday's deciding round of Macron versus Le Pen.
And DW correspondent Sonia Falnikar joins me now from central Paris. Sonia, polls suggest Macron should win, but is there any chance of a surprise?
Well, I think his victory is really, not absolutely not certain. What is crucial here is that whether Macron manages to sway voters on the far left. I think this is really, they hold the key. There are about 7 million of them who voted for far left candidate Jean-Luc Mélenchon in the first round. And many of these voters, really intensely dislike Macron. They see him as an economic liberal. They feel his economic policies have favored the rich. They say inequalities have widened during his term. So I think a lot depends on whether these voters will vote for Macron, abstain, or even migrate to the Le Pen camp. In past elections in France, whether it's been to keep out Marine Le Pen or her father, French voters have traditionally, put aside their political differences and joined together to vote out any far-right candidate from joining the government. This time around, that is less clear.
And why is this race between the two candidates who faced each other 5 years ago so much tighter this time around?
Well, I think the answer is that the far right in France has simply gained ground with each election. And I think they've never been as strong as they are right now, literally within touching distance of the presidency. And I think part of the reason for this is that Marine Le Pen has run a very slick grassroots campaign. She's, reached out to working class voters on the right and the left and managed to convince a large chunk of them that she is really their best bet to put more money in their pockets, slash prices. She takes their concerns seriously. This is also an electorate that feels that Macron is too arrogant and doesn't really care about their concerns. And I think Le Pen has also done a fairly good job of managing to really, tone down her party's radical image and somehow normalize her party, bring it in from the fringe and make the ideas of this party more mainstream.
You're talking about Le Pen changing the party's message and image and policies, I would suppose, to a certain extent. So let's say she gets elected. What would that mean for France? and for his place in the world?
Well, I think Le Pen has managed to, kind of partly detoxify, if you like, her party's image. But I think we have to be clear that she remains, firmly far-right and nationalist in her roots and in her policies. I mean, if you go through her party platform, she has proposals in there where, she says she wants to hold a referendum on immigration. She wants to deport foreigners if they're unemployed for a year. She wants a French-first policy when it comes to public housing and benefits. And one of her key planks is to ban the wearing of the Muslim headscarf in public. That would contradict France's international commitments. And she also wants to curtail the right to asylum, which would violate, rules again in France. So I think what the French media here have been saying is that many of her policies would actually require changes to the constitution. So I think there is no doubt that Marine Le Pen remains a clear danger to France's democratic foundations.
And just a quick last question, if I may. The Franco-German motor drives Europe. The relationship with Berlin is really critical to French foreign policy. If Le Pen is elected, does that all break down?
That's right. I mean, Le Pen, she's been in the last few weeks holding a couple of press conferences to come across as more credible. But instead, I think there has been more scrutiny of her policies. And she has talked about, kind of ending maybe military cooperation with Germany. She's talked about putting a distance with Germany. And I think these are all really worrying signs that would obviously, of course, put her on, a direct collision course with Brussels.
Okay, DW correspondent Sonia Falnikar on the second and final round of the French presidential election. Thanks so much.